All right, in this video, I'm going to introduce the idea of property and liability insurance and how that relates to risk management. So when you think about property and liability insurance, some of the main categories that immediately come to mind would be homeowners insurance, automobile insurance, um, and possibly some other property insurance, and then a personal liability umbrella. So those are the main big categories. So I'm going to talk about each of those briefly for a moment. So for homeowners insurance, those policies are typically going to include coverage for various things that could damage the home, the property. So think uh, fire damage, a tree falls on the house, a lightning strike, things like that typically. Um, and also certain degrees of liability coverage associated typically with living in the home for the most part. So this would mean things like um, a delivery driver walks up to your step and slips on the step because it's icy out and is injured. And so there's a liability there because you're the homeowner and he was injured on your property, right? So there's some liability coverage that is involved in a homeowner's policy to help to cover some of those kinds of incidents. For automobile insurance, if you're driving around, you could get an accident. And so that could involve damage to property and also bodily injury liability, where you're responsible for the damage that was caused, perhaps to the other person's vehicle, but also maybe injuries, medical expenses, things like that. So for automobile insurance, it's addressing the effects of accidents typically. But oftentimes there's some other areas as well. So you could have sort of the fluke situation, a tree falls on the car, in some cases, certain types of theft, or somebody steals the car, or they steal something, they rip out the stereo, or things like that. So accidents and liability coverage associated with automobile insurance as well. And then you can have other types of property insurance. So maybe you have an expensive boat or something. And so you buy a policy to cover that, and a variety of other kinds of property you could conceivably have. And then we have the idea of a personal liability umbrella. This is covering additional liability where you are held liable or responsible for something. And some degree of liability insurance, if you've been listening carefully, is often covered under a homeowner's policy. And some types of liability are covered under an auto insurance policy. But a personal liability umbrella can kind of add on top of that and basically provide additional coverage for liability. So maybe your automobile policy only covers $200,000 of medical expenses for somebody that you injure in a car accident that you caused. Well, if that's the case, and they have a horrific injury that involves $750,000 of hospital stays, surgeries, treatments, et cetera, well, you're going to blow past that limit of the auto insurance policy, and that's where the personal liability umbrella can kick in above that and cover additional amounts. Normally, personal liability umbrella insurance is going to require a kind of generally a higher level of coverage at the homeowners insurance policy level and also at the automobile insurance policy level. So we'll typically require to bump up those coverages so that there's more coverage there before the liability umbrella is ever really invoked. So that's something to kind of keep in mind to make sure that your automobile policy and homeowners insurance policies have enough coverages that they satisfy whatever the requirements are for that personal liability. But basically, that personal liability is extra coverage above and beyond homeowners insurance liability, auto insurance liability. And that could also kick in certain professional contexts if you're working a job where somebody could sue you and you're in a professional capacity. A personal liability umbrella may help to provide some additional coverage for that in the event that you're sued in like a professional capacity. Okay, hopefully this little brief introduction kind of makes sense, and gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of how property and liability insurance kind of relates to risk management, dealing with some of the risks that people have as it relates to these areas of their lives. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.